Hello, everybody. We're back with the TEV podcast. If you missed our last conversation, we were speaking to toxic masculinity, Andrew Tate, and gender roles. Unfortunately, we were unable to get to any definite conclusion.
Any common ground.
Yeah, it just got a little stale. We were understanding each other too much. Wasn't a lot of back and forth argument. So we decided to move on to our next topical conversation with Angel Reese. This one proved to be a little bit more lively than our last one. Calvin, would you do the honors of breaking our news?
So, if you haven't heard, Angel Reese and the LSU Tigers won the NCAA Women's Championship versus Iowa. They had some historic performances. They broke the scoring record. They had the score was 102 LSU to Iowa's 85 points. And that's very, very, very good for LSU. Bringing was I don't know if it's their first championship. I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that, but
Well, I do know they just got their head coach, I believe, in her first year, Kim Mulkey.
yeah,
And she brought that title home, which was very good for LSU. Very good for her stature in the game. So that was good to see, definitely.
but this whole debacle, if you will,
Yeah, the game itself, the performances was not the hot topic.
yeah, it's
Pertaining to Angel Reese.
yeah, it's more so pertaining between Angel Reese and a Stone Cold player, Caitlin Clark. She's the guard for Iowa. In my opinion, she's like a Steph Curry or Dame Dollar
She was
type of player. Just
amazing shot, amazing
phenomenal.
competitor, and just a good all around athlete.
Yeah. She so apparently Caitlin Clark, she did the John Cena
You
little
can't see
thing,
the
whatever.
gesture.
Just having some fun with the game, if you
And,
will.
yeah, that was in the Elite Eight against Louisville.
Yeah.
That she did that gesture. And I won't say that it was a big, public outroar when that happened. It was playful. It was, in good jest. They were playing a competitive game against a, top team in the country. So you expect, emotions to be flowing like that. So Caitlin, let it fly, and she hit the gesture. You can't see me.
Yeah. So Chris, tell us what spiraled out of that. What came of Caitlin Clark's John Cena, you can't see me, and then what that has to do with Angel Reese. Why are we even talking about Angel Reese? Why?
Well, yeah, Angel Reese, if you're unfamiliar with her, she's a basketball player for LSU. She comes from the DMV area, and she used to play at Maryland, Big Ten school, along with, in the same conference as Iowa. So her and Caitlin Clark have some history. I'm sure they exchanged words. They played against each other numerous times before. And, them being on the biggest stage together kind of was a recipe for tension, especially in the demeanor that Caitlin Clark plays with. I guess the tenacity that Angel Reese has as well, and them being kind of the biggest stars on their team. Angel Reese is the Bayou Barbie. She has this persona on and off the court. It kind of contradicts how Caitlin Clark moves, very stoic, stone cold. How you described it. So there's a clash of personalities, of ideals already. So we get to the game, and obviously LSU puts up the historic performance. Then you see in the closing minutes of the game, Angel Reese, finds Caitlin Clark. She seeks her out to do the same gesture that Caitlin Clark did to the Louisville player in the Elite Eight. And she also pointed to her ring finger, symbolizing that they had indeed won the championship, which they did. Which, in the moment, a lot of people found issue with. And we heard the word idiot thrown around at Angel Reese. Terms like classless put on her.
And other provocative language that we're not going to say on
we
this
can't say
on this
clean
podcast. We're not about that here.
No, definitely not.
We don't support that.
Nah, but it was very interesting to see the public outroar on both sides. People condemning Reese and praising Caitlin Clark. People saying that the two incidences are two separate things and should not be compared. So where do you stand on that?
I'm not gonna lie, it's a lot to unpack
Definitely.
with this particular event. For one, once again, shout out to LSU girls and shout out to Iowa for making it a fun game to watch.
Definitely exciting.
I think it's, at least according to some news outlets and things of that nature, it comprised like 9.9 million
Yeah, I think
views.
the most viewed
Yeah.
women's basketball game in history, or college basketball game in history.
So I think because of that, a lot of things, because you have like new onset of new viewers seeing this and have a perceived notion of what women's basketball should be in regards to how they should act, how they should respond on the floor. I think that kind of played a part in the people's response, the media's response to what Angel Reese did in regards to this, versus why Caitlin Clark, when she did it, nothing was, brought up until Angel Reese did it. Now you got several factors. You got the race card that you could throw in there. You could throw in the fact that maybe it was just her character. Maybe the people don't like her character. But a lot of people are saying that it's just both. But I think the fact that grown men went out their way publicly to trash Angel Reese for showing expression in a game that she loves. We don't condone that here.
Yeah.
Not on the TEV podcast.
That's toxic masculinity.
That's not right. That's not upstanding.
That's not auspicious at all.
Not auspicious for the people that
That's
made
our
these claims.
Word of the day, right? Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, Angel Reese, she's dedicated a lot of time and effort to, be in that position. And I don't think that your personality in those high tension moments, those high emotional moments, should be, condemned, especially nobody got hurt. Caitlin Clark has come out in support of, LSU basketball, saying that, they deserved it. There's nothing that they can take away from that team and what they accomplished. And there seems to be no particularly bad blood between Reese and Clark. I think the public perception of those two individuals has played to this complete narrative of, who is right, who is wrong. And, you think about things like the White House invitation from Joe Biden, her, allegedly joking around that both teams should be invited and be able to attend the White House ceremony. I don't think that's helpful in any way, shape, or form to, rightfully congratulating the winners. I don't think we should cater to the losers in that situation, even if we deem the act to be classless or idiotic, whatever it may be. Yeah, I think that was a bad move by Mrs. Biden.
Oh, for sure. I think that's kind of, if I'm another country, if I'm like China or something like that, or if I'm, Brazil, I think that's why they probably pulled out, not using U.S. currency because of things like this. Now, that's a far fetched, but I'm just using it for the example's sake. Outside looking in, if I see a country that's allowing, the person that lost to receive the same benefits as the person that won, then what's the point of winning?
Or I mean, not even bigger than that. I think you see a country that's allowing issues like sports celebrations to separate us. Like that's not a country that's grounded in anything of value or truth for that nature. Very entertaining, I would say.
Yeah, I don't think that was a W for the Biden administration, the Biden
You're
household.
getting judged on a basketball commentary.
Mm. But but I do have a lot of respect for what Caitlin Clark had to say about the whole debacle, um, and how auspicious it was. How
It was
I don't think I
auspicious.
was gonna say that. I don't think I was gonna use that word
It was
in the right
auspicious
way.
to the game of basketball. Brought a little bit more attention
Yes.
um,
No. It was auspicious for her to speak on that. On
to
that.
her character. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, to her character, to the whole event. But basically, she was saying that she would not. She don't think the losers should go
Hmm.
to the White House, and I commend her for coming out and saying that on behalf of LSU and Angel Reese, just to clear up the whole mess. Because what the media did was, obviously try to paint this as a black or white issue and all this type of things. I don't think it was a matter of black or white.
Well,
What?
I'll say that post, you know, championship game,
Mhm.
Angel Reese has been on a media tour where she has been being very vocal about who she is, what her upbringing is, and
Mhm.
how that should not be taken out of context when determining her character, her intelligence, things of that nature. Um, so I think she has been quite vocal about it being a particular issue to who she is and how she's viewed, not based on a player, but some things like being a black woman, influencing how she's perceived, especially by media. Um,
Yeah.
so I can't say
Yeah.
which came first, whether she was vocal about those first or whether people, cast their own views about who she is and what they saw
Yeah.
onto her to make her speak up to that. But I do know that both of those things do exist in this media. She's been very vocal about defending her, personality, and the media has also been vocal about crucifying her on that hill. So,
Yeah. I see nothing wrong with her personality. I don't think her race should define, her being black and obviously we black, but her like the media or just the world in general perceiving her as being black as to define or equate that to her intelligence or to how she should act or things of that nature. So to that standpoint, if anybody's thinking in that regard, or if even if the individual is thinking in that regard, I would hope that they would change their perspective and change their heart to think differently about people of other races, especially here in America, only because it's you know in our history, we had controversies going back when, and so yes, I think I would charge every person listening to think differently about
all right.
to think differently about just this whole situation.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that this happened in women's sports. You think about like we were talking about in our prior uh, episode, the competitiveness within masculinity, how that's a normal attribute that we attribute to what it means to be a man. There's a certain drive, a competitiveness that you have to have or that is expected of you. But when that's shown in a women's sport, even in sports in general, they're just competitive by nature. But when it's shown and exemplified in a women's sport, how there's backlash, especially from the Angel Reese perspective. We found ourselves, I guess, kind of condemning again the passion and the effort that it takes to be in that position without understanding what it takes to be in that position, which I think is very detrimental when you try to address equality within sports. And I think you take it from from recent news. Israel Adesanya, he recently won UFC 287, and where he beat Alex Pereira, and pointed to his son, and celebrated that he knocked his father out right in front of him. And you see something like that. That's in my eyes, I think that's very classless, quote unquote.
Mm.
You know, one could say that is idiotic, but there's not the perception that Angel Reese was, hit with. You know, people are seeing that as a comical issue. It's funny, laugh at it,
Mm.
and nobody's up in arms about it, which I think is a bit sexist, if I may say.
Yeah. Um, with the fight with Israel, and that whole thing about his taunting the dude's father, I've that's a little disrespectful. When he
His
gets,
son.
uh,
I said his son. Taunting his son. The fighter's son.
yeah,
He
that's what I
taunted.
said.
Okay,
Taunting,
sorry.
taunting about his father.
No, yeah, actually.
Yeah, like that's a little disrespectful. If the son's of age, that he might want to fight.
I think he was a young man. I think he was. I don't have his age, but I think he was an adolescent man, adolescent boy.
Yeah, I mean, but it's comical. It is to a certain point. It is comical, but in regards to like looking at it from the NCAA perspective and the UFC perspective, obviously it's dominated by men, and even in basketball, like the NBA, Russell Westbrook with the rocking the baby, stooping. I think John Morant does I think John and Westbrook does like the
Mm-hmm.
you know
Too little.
too little. LeBron, doing what he does, mm, everything that he does. That's permissible in those arenas. Football, those things are permissible. Like I think of greats like Ray Lewis, like the way
There's
he.
a particular violence I think that is accepted in men's sports.
Mm,
Of rawness,
yeah, yeah,
its competitive nature is like that's a necessity in men's sports. But when it comes to women's sports, there's kind of this double standard of okay, not too much of that.
mm,
You're still women, which I don't think is healthy to the sport. But I will say, I think them getting this exposure to women's basketball and women's sports in general is very good for the game. This competitiveness exists in women's sports if you're not aware, and I think with them both coming back to school, we'll have people tuning in for the next 2 years for Angel Reese's case. So I think there'll be a lot of attention raised to how competitive women's sports are actually, and how entertaining they can be.
yeah. To your point about basically this being good publicity for women's sports and thing. I am definitely in agreement with that. I think it's you know evident just from the 9.9 million views itself. It shows that
People
that
care.
that maybe this is what it takes for that spark to ignite that fire and people to get behind women's sports, right? To watch it, and hopefully that transfers to like the WNBA.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I think you would hope to see, I on good terms, of course, like an Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark rivalry in the WNBA, to where people are actually excited and seek out the WNBA
mm.
as opposed to casting it away as the NBA's little brother, unwanted little brother.
Yeah.
Right?
If they do this thing right, it's something that they could definitely market. Like I could see that as a marketing ploy to garner more viewership, more ticket sales. If they could sell like especially if they permit. I think that's the big thing. Like if every single time a person does a taunting or something like that in women's sports and this arises, then that's going to be problematic. But what I will say, um, just like in NBA, for example, there's certain things that you can and can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And you get fined for it. But they treated this as if they was going to fine Angel Reese for this. You know what I'm saying? Like 50 grand or something. How
Yeah,
they
I
how they
mean,
do in the NBA, just dropping just numbers for no reason.
yeah. I mean, I don't think the actions that she did were anything out of the ordinary. I mean, like, you could say that it was malicious, but again, you have so many emotions tied up. You know, it's understandable in that moment, I believe. Um, you know, so yeah, you would think with how she was perceived and kind of written in a bad light by some of these media outlets that there was a fine coming in a sense. You know, she had some pretty harsh backlash, but you know she has been very professional about um, you know addressing some of the things that people have said about her within her media tour that she's been on, and you know we wish both Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark all the love in the world, and we wish them as much success in their basketball journeys and life endeavors as well.
Yes, sir. Um, and I guess that wraps up today's podcast of TEV. And you know what we represent? We represent truth, entertainment, and value. Um, this has been a very good podcast today, I would say so from my standpoint.
A lot of topics addressed, um, and you know we hope to see you back next week with even more topics, more words of the week. You know, a lot of things to learn and a lot of insight we have to offer.
Yeah. Well, have a tough day.
That's so sweet. Don't have a tough day.
Have a tough day.
Have a great day.
Yeah.